So today we'll continue our discussion about vascular disorders. Yesterday we came all the way up to pulmonary thromboembolism, where I told you where a venous thromboembolism, emboli formed by thrombus, is going into your pulmonary arteries. All right, it'll enter into the pulmonary arterial tree and it will cause a lot of problems. Mainly, it occurs in people who already have pulmonary atherosclerosis और people who have pulmonary hypertension. ये दोनों में common रहता. Now coming to systemic embolism. Now systemic embolism generally originates from a diseased heart. So specifically originates from diseased heart, specifically left ventricle. So the patient already has some problem in their heart. Now those problems of the heart can be myocardial infarction. So the patient might have had heart attack in the past, or if they have heart attack, later on embolism can develop in the left ventricle, or they might have cardiomyopathy, some form of cardiac problem, cardiac muscle issue, rheumatic heart disease where connective tissue is involved, or congenital heart disease, congestive heart disease, infective endocarditis, or prosthetic cardiac valves. All of these can lead to the formation of systemic embolism. They will become spots where what we call clots can occur, or they can become spots where some bodies will detach from the original location and go to the parts of your different parts of your body, causing embolism in your systemic circulation. That is why it is called systemic embolism. Left ventricle may originate हो रहा because of some problem, and from there, because of myocardial infarction या RHD या whatever it is, that embolism is traveling all the way through your aorta to the systemic circulation. Once it enters your systemic circulation, it is going all around your body and causing an embolism somewhere else. That is why it is called systemic embolism. Right. Now, next type, fat embolism. Now, as the name suggests, obstruction of arterioles, specifically arterioles and capillaries, when it occurs through fat globules, that is called fat embolism. Okay, so literally fat will start getting accumulated in fat itself, will act as an embolus, and it will start blocking the flow of capillaries and arterioles. Sometimes what happens is adipose tissue altogether comes into picture. So fragments of adipose tissue will come into circulation and they will cause obstruction because they will be acting as an embolism. That will be called fat tissue embolism. So fat embolism में खाली fat globules है. Okay, they are only fat globules that are causing a blockage. In fat tissue embolism, there is adipose tissue, which is the whole tissue fragment gets detached and it becomes an embolus where it is going to other parts of the body and causing embolism. Now, there are two important causes for fat embolism. It can be divided into traumatic causes and non-traumatic causes. Okay. Now, traumatic causes will include uh, trauma to the bones, or it can be trauma to your soft tissue. अगर trauma to bone हुआ, in the sense if it is fracture of long bones, ठीक है? If there is fracture of long bones, what happens is your bone marrow is generally fatty. That fat will spill into the blood and it will form an embolus. So fracture of long bones, okay? So bone marrow leaks out, bone marrow itself being fatty, that will cause a fat embolism. That is one way. Or it can be concussion of bones, or it can be after an orthopedic surgical procedure. If someone is undergoing a bone surgery, orthopedic surgery, after that, if the surgery is not performed well, or even if it is performed well, sometimes what happens is an embolism is formed. That embolism might go somewhere else. It is technically a fat embolism because the marrow itself contains a lot of fat. It will go to somewhere else and cause a problem. All right. Non-traumatic causes will include also soft tissue. So it can also be, let's suppose, laceration of your adipose tissue. Laceration of adipose tissue. That is also what you call categorized under traumatic causes. So if a person literally gets injured in their adipose tissue and that adipose tissue gets torn off and it enters into blood circulation, that will also lead to fat embolism. नॉन ट्रॉमेटिक कॉजेस में आता आपका बर्न्स, एक्सटेंसिव बर्न्स, second or third degree I'm talking about, or it might be diabetes mellitus, fatty liver. So those will be non-traumatic causes. Fatty liver है, pancreatitis है, then we have diabetes mellitus, extensive burns. Sometimes in case of sickle cell anemia, the patient will have fat embolism, and inflammation of bone, osteoarthritis, inflammation of bones. ठीक है. Sometimes inflammation of soft tissue as well will be categorized into non-traumatic cause of fat embolism. So that is about fat embolism. Now there is another type of embolism called air embolism, in which you literally have a bubble. Okay, air will get trapped into venous or arterial circulation, and it will cause a embolism. All right, so you literally have gas that is coming into your blood vessel, and that is causing an embolism. Now the main circumstances where air might be sucked into a blood vessel, okay, how air is entering, it might be operations, specifically obstructions of head and neck, or operations of obstetric origin, let's suppose delivery or some other obstetric operation, or it can be trauma of the same, head and neck trauma, obstetric trauma, या फिर इंट्रावेनस इन्फ्यूजन ऑफ ब्लड. ठीक है, ब्लड एंड फ्लूइड जब आप आईवी इन्फ्यूजन कर रहे हैं, एट दैट टाइम इफ यू आर नॉट केयरफुल, embolisms might be formed. Vertical air bubble might come into vertical the needle, and it might pass into circulation. That is a big problem, sometimes due to angiography as well. ठीक है, these all are causes of venous air embolism. So air embolism में a bubble of air is causing or forming the embolus. Okay, अगर venous air embolism है, the common causes for venous embolism will be operation and trauma, and or actually trauma of head, neck. It can be obstetric operation or obstetric trauma. It might be intravenous infusion. ठीक है, IV infusion of blood or fluids. ठीक है, it might also be sometimes angiography. ठीक है, all of these are reasons for venous air embolism. Now we have arterial air embolism as well. Arterial air embolism generally occurs when air enters into pulmonary veins. Okay, pulmonary veins, remember, carry oxygenated blood. Pulmonary arteries carry deoxygenated blood from right atrium, from right ventricle to your lung, and pulmonary veins will carry oxygenated blood from your lung to your left atrium. Okay, so that they might be pumped into left ventricle and then to the body. So anyway, if air is entering into your pulmonary vein or one of its tributaries, this condition will occur. So it might occur in cardiothoracic surgery or cardiothoracic trauma, or it might occur in arteriography. So two main causes will be cardiothoracic surgery or trauma. It might also be arteriography. Okay, these are the two general causes of arterial air embolism. Now there is a special form of air embolism as well called decompression sickness. Okay, decompression sickness generally occurs in deep sea divers or scuba divers, people who dive very, very deeply into the sea or into a water body. Now, the result of that is what happens is if someone very quickly changes their body position from a area of high atmospheric pressure to an area of normal atmospheric pressure. So normally speaking, if you go deeper into water, the lower or the deeper you go, the more pressure will be there. Okay, let's suppose someone is diving deep into almost, let's suppose 20 meters deep, or 20 or 30 feet, sorry, not meters, 20 or 30 feet deep. So that is pretty deep. As they keep going lower and lower or deeper and deeper, the atmospheric pressure down there will keep on increasing. Now, while they are coming back up, let's suppose they are brought back up very quickly. What happens is, because of sudden decompression, now their body was under a lot of pressure from all around their what do you call, the water that was present around them. If they are transferred from such an environment to an environment to which is very let's suppose normal pressure or low pressure, what will happen is embolisms, air embolisms will develop into them. Okay? Now this can be acute or chronic. So it can be an acute obstruction where a small blood vessel is getting affected. Especially this happens near your joints. Okay, emboli in decompression sickness, they will what do you call, clinical effects at least will be seen in near the joints and skeletal muscles. Small blood vessels that are present near the joints and blood vessels, they will have an embolism, and the patient will have they will start shivering, they will have fever, all of that. And if you are compressing them, if you literally put pressure on certain parts of their body, they will become stabilized. Okay, that is one of the signs of decompression sickness. They'll get better under pressure because their body was not given enough time to adapt from an environment of high pressure to normal pressure or normal pressure to low pressure. ऐसा भी अगर high pressure से low pressure, अगर high pressure से normal pressure पे आ रहे या normal pressure से low pressure पे आ रहे, their body, if it is not given enough time to adapt slowly, that is when air embolisms will occur. It can also be chronic in the sense that you will have certain areas where ischemic necrosis is occurring throughout the body, especially near your skeletal muscles. Okay, in any case, acute rando or chronic rando, skeletal muscle involvement will be there. And until and unless you are performing surgery, or there will be, you need to stabilize the pressure of the patient, क्योंकि generally वो patient क्या होता है, hypotension में चले आते, and they might go into coma and all of that. So in such cases you have to make sure that you are, you know, bringing them back to normal pressure slowly. That is the best way of kind of making sure that air embolisms or decompression sickness does not occur. Okay, the decompression sickness generally occurs in scuba divers or deep sea divers, especially those people. Let's suppose some person, it can occur in normal people as well. Let's suppose a person goes on a holiday and they go for deep sea diving in wherever they are going, and immediately the next day they catch a flight. Okay, so you are essentially going from a deep sea area or a deep high pressure area, coming back to normal pressure area, then going to a low pressure area. In the air it is a very low pressure area, especially in a plane. Even though the pressure is stabilized, you are generally in a low pressure area, so that sudden change can lead to decompression sickness. Okay, the patient might even start vomiting and all of that. Their organs will not be able to handle that change in pressure. Now coming to another type of very serious embolism, amniotic fluid embolism. Amniotic fluid embolism is a very, very important, very serious cause of maternal mortality. Okay, specifically causing maternal death. It is an unpredictable cause. You will not know how it is occurring. Okay, this generally occurs during labor and sometimes immediately after parturition. Okay, so immediately postpartum or during labor, what happens is the contents of amniotic fluid, they might enter uterine veins. So the veins in the uterus, they will have this amniotic fluid enter into it, because of which they can reach the right side of your heart, wherein it can prove to be fatal because it will lead to fatal complications. Okay, the notable changes that occur because of amniotic fluid embolism will be mainly in lungs. So in the lungs you will have hemorrhage, congestion, edema, and dilation of the right side of the heart. So amniotic fluid embolism में क्या हो रहा? This is occurring mainly during labor or immediately postpartum, ठीक है, immediately after parturition. So in this क्या होता? Amniotic fluid enters uterine veins, ठीक है, and it ends up in your right side of the heart. Now the complication it causes will be in your lungs. So complications in lungs and technically right side of the heart as well. So the mainly in lungs it will cause hemorrhage because of increased pressure. Wherever that amniotic fluid is going and causing an embolism, it will start increasing the pressure in that area, ultimately leading to hemorrhage, or it might cause congestion, it might cause edema, okay, and dilation of right side of heart. Okay. Now, clinically, what you see in the patient is that the clinical symptoms that they show is they will not be able to breathe properly. There will be respiratory distress. There will be dyspnea. The patient might have deep cyanosis. Okay, because they are not able to breathe properly, they will have cyanosis. There is extreme lack of oxygen leading to cyanosis. There might be cardiovascular shock. Ultimately, the patient might go into convulsions, coma, and sometimes they will die unexpectedly. So symptoms include um, sudden respiratory distress and dyspnea. Okay. In some patients, ultimately what happens is deep cyanosis will occur because of lack of oxygen. The patient might go into cardiovascular shock. If not treated in time, if not stabilized in time, it will lead to convulsions, coma, and unexpected death. This technically amniotic fluid embolism is one of the vertical most unpredictable and most serious causes of maternal mortality, of mothers dying during labor or immediately after labor. Okay, so also in this case the patient will present with low BP and hypoxemia, decreased amount of oxygen in their blood and extremely low blood pressure. Then we have two more types of embolism. They are called atheroembolism and tumor embolism. Okay. So atheroembolism में क्या होता? Generally, people who have atheromatous plaques, atheromas जो बोलते ना, especially in their aorta, so in their vein artery, what happens is that atheromatous plaque gets eroded, and that once it gets eroded, meaning it gets damaged and it gets detached, that plaque itself is forming an emboli, and that emboli can go and block medium to small level arteries. Okay, aorta is pretty big, so उसमें उतना problem नहीं होता, but if this atheromatous plaque is getting eroded and it is getting damaged and it is getting dislodged, it will go to some other part of your body, systemic circulation में, it will affect the mediums, because this plaque will be significantly big. It can affect not just small blood vessels, but it can affect medium sized blood vessels as well. Okay, so we have atheromatous plaques forming embolus, okay, entering systemic circulation and blocking medium and small blood vessels. Okay, then we have tumor embolism. Pretty much simple. As the name suggests, there is a malignant tumor. That tumor is malignant matlab it is undergoing metastasis. It is leaving its original place and it is entering systemic circulation and going to some other place. Now sometimes what happens is the tumor is big enough where it is going to certain areas and it is invading, causing local blood vessels to be blocked. Okay, the tumor itself gets dislodged, it is metastasizing, spreading, and at one point of time where whichever area it is affecting, वहाँ के local blood vessels को it will go and block, leading to embolism. All right, that particular form is called tumor embolism. And with that we have completed embolism. If you have any doubts, please let me know in any type of embolism that you want me to discuss again, or if you didn't understand, else we'll move into stroke. Okay. Now, stroke or cardiovascular stroke is technically a symptom. Okay, इसको cerebrovascular accident भी बोलते हैं. What happens is there is a focal deficit, focal neurological deficit of oxygen. So specifically what happens is there is sudden and dramatic development of neurological deficits in one particular spot, or it can be in several spots. Generally happens in one spot. So now depending on whichever spot it is occurring in, you will see corresponding symptoms. But in that particular place in the brain, there is a neurological deficit mainly caused because of lack of oxygen. Think of it like heart attack, but in your brain. Okay. यहाँ पर because of lack of oxygen, there will be varying degree of neurological damage. Sometimes the patient will have, depending on the extent of damage, they will have hemiplegia where they will have partial paralysis and they might go into coma. So stroke is technically sudden and dramatic development of focal neurological deficit technically एक जगह होता, very rarely it will go to several areas at the same time, with varying neurological disorders like hemiplegia and coma. Okay, because of stroke, because of that lack of oxygen and because of that neurological deficit, the patient might go into hemiplegia and coma or other neurological disorders as well, depending on the location of that stroke, wherever it is occurring. Okay, some other less common effects that will that will be included in stroke will be vascular headache. So vascular headache में क्या होता, the patient's blood vessel in the blood vessels in the brain, they are getting blocked and they are literally causing migraine, or they might because of hypertension, literally the patient will have severe headache, उसको vascular headache बोलते. There is a problem in the blood vessel in the brain that is leading to headache, उसको vascular headache बोलते. It can be migraine, or it can be hypertension, or it can be arthritis. Arthritis की वजह से भी vascular headache हो सकता. The antigens of arthritis go there and cause inflammation there, leading to vascular headache. Sometimes aneurysm or increased intracranial pressure might also occur. So in stroke, you can see vascular headache. Also, you will see transient ischemic attacks. Vascular headache. Now, this vascular headache can be because of hypertension, it can be because of migraine, or it can be because of arthritis. Okay. The patient might have aneurysms, local aneurysms developing. The patient might have increased intracranial pressure, ICP. The patient might have this thing, the transient ischemic attacks. ट्रांसिएंट इस्कीमिक अटैक्स मीन्स अब जहां पर भी स्ट्रोक हो रहा वहां पर इस्कीमिया होता, बिकॉज देर इज अ प्रॉब्लम इन द ब्लड वेसल, स्पेसिफिकली इन द फ्लो ऑफ द ब्लड वेसल, फ्लो ऑफ ब्लड इन दैट ब्लड वेसल, देर इज इस्कीमिया इन द अफेक्टेड पार्ट, वहां पर ऑक्सीजन एंड ब्लड सप्लाई कम हो जा रही, ठीक है, लीडिंग टू इन्फाक्शन, ठीक है, दैट पर्टिकुलर event will be called stroke. But if the causation, let's suppose thrombus se ho raha, for example, one of the most common causes for this ischemia to occur or stroke to occur is thrombus. Thrombus that is flowing through the blood vessel and reaching to your brain, and it is blocking one of the blood vessel, wherein what is happening is jahan par bhi block kar raha wahan par ischemia develop hota, later on infarction develop hota, finally stroke. Transient ischemic attacks will be, let's suppose that thrombus is going to one blood vessel, it is causing blockage and it is leading to stroke or it is leading to infarction, and it is moving to some other blood vessel, again causing the same thing. So you will see transient ischemic attacks, you will see spaced ischemic attacks, okay? That can be another sign of stroke. The patient will have facial twitching, their vertical left-sided paresis or one-sided paralysis will occur. They will not be able to walk properly, they'll not be able to coordinate their movements properly, ठीक है? Stroke के symptoms रहते वो. Now, as such, the effects of stroke can be divided into two major categories. It will be ischemic brain damage, or it can be, or a RAND. Technically both of them can occur at the same time, or one of the other can occur at the same time. Intracranial hemorrhage and ischemic brain damage. Okay, दो main effects of stroke will be ischemic brain damage, okay, damage due to ischemia as such, and we have intracranial hemorrhage. Okay, these two are the main effects. Now ischemic brain damage में क्या हो रहा, because of ischemia necrosis will develop in that one particular area. Let's suppose there is a blood vessel that is going in your brain, and that blood vessel has a thrombi or an embolism, whatever, blockage to the blood vessel. Because of that blockage, stroke is occurring. Ultimately that area will undergo necrosis. Okay, this is a result of ischemia. Now specifically what happens is there is either considerable reduction or complete interruption of blood supply to the neuronal tissue, which is leading to necrosis. Okay, आपका neuronal tissue, it requires oxygen and blood like any other tissue for its metabolic needs. More so because your brain will not take any other form of food other than glucose. Glucose and oxygen are pretty much the only things that your brain will take. In that case, what will happen is, if let's suppose oxygen and glucose supply to the brain is stopped for around 3 to 4 minutes, it will lead to permanent neuronal damage and permanent neuroglial damage. Usko ischemic brain damage bolte. Okay, I'll repeat once again. There is a blood vessel in your brain, or there are blood vessels in your brain. Let's suppose this is a tree of blood vessels in your brain. Okay, ऐसा जा रहा, ऐसा जा रहा, ऐसा जा रहा, and इधर से ऐसा जा रहा, ठीक है, supplying different parts of your brain. I'm drawing some vague structure, okay? I'm not exactly anatomically correctly drawing it. I'm just drawing some structure. Let's suppose there is a main blood vessel like this, which has a lot of branches in your brain. In this case, let's suppose a embolism or thrombus is coming in this. It can be thromboembolism, it can be any other form of blockage, and this fellow is coming and blocking, let's suppose, this particular vertical blood vessel. So क्या होता है यहाँ, this affected area will start developing ischemia initially. Then as the thrombus moves around, let's suppose that fellow comes here, this area will start getting affected. If that thrombus moves here, let's suppose this area is getting affected. And more importantly, what happens is, because your neuronal tissue and neuroglial tissue is so dependent on glucose. Another thing to remember is that glucose stores nahi rehte. Brain mein zyada heavy stores of glucose are not present. Energy reserves are not present as such. They have very, very limited resources, very, very limited stores of glucose or energy sources. So because of that, what happens is, if there is cessation of oxygen and glucose for more than 3 to 4 minutes, it will lead to permanent damage to the neurons, permanent damage to the neuroglial cells. Okay, that is ischemic brain damage. Now, deprivation of oxygen to your brain can occur in 4 different ways. Okay, I hope यहाँ तक समझ में आया. See, this is what we are talking about is ischemic stroke. अगर hemorrhagic stroke भी हो सकता है. Hemorrhagic stroke में क्या होता? Bleeding की वजह से, let's suppose one big blood vessel in your brain is bursting, aneurysm है, burst हो जा रहा है, and hemorrhage हो रहा. Ultimately एक जगह blood supply coagulate हो रही, hemorrhage होके blood is being lost. Some other area which is being supplied by that blood is not getting blood, right? तो वहां पर ischemic damage होने लगता. अब मेरे पास let's suppose ऐसी एक blood vessel है, ठीक है? It is supplying to area 1 and it is supplying to area 2, let's suppose, and यहाँ पर area 3 है for example, and because of whatever reason there is hemorrhage occurring near the third area. मतलब यहाँ पर the blood vessel has ruptured and blood is flowing out here. ठीक है? Until and unless this hemorrhage is plugged, what will happen? These two areas will start getting affected. No, 1 and 2 will start having ischemic damage and they will not get any oxygen or glucose, at least not substantial amount of oxygen and glucose what they were initially getting. So it can be either way. अगर blockage हो रहा या hemorrhage हो रहा, कैसा भी हो सकता. Now, ischemic brain damage में deprivation of oxygen, as I told you, can occur in 4 different ways. The first way will be called anoxic anoxia. Anoxia is an extreme form of hypoxia where there is no oxygen reaching your particular part of the body because of no oxygen being present in the blood. This is specifically because of low inspired PO2. Partial pressure of oxygen is extremely low. I'll write it this way, PO2, okay, leading to anoxic anoxia. That is the first way through which you can have ischemic brain damage. Second, it can be anemic anoxia. Anemic anoxia. Anemic anoxia में क्या होता? The oxygen carrying capacity of a person's hemoglobin is significantly decreased. So normally your hemoglobin which is present in your RBC has iron molecules, and those iron molecules are binding with oxygen, and that oxygen is being transported to different parts of your body. That is how oxygenated blood works. Now in anemic anoxia, oxygen carrying capacity of hemoglobin decreases. Okay, or is reduced. Then the third type is histotoxic anoxia. Histotoxic anoxia में क्या होता? There is direct toxic injury. There is a toxin that is entering your body and it is causing damage, literally leading to anoxia. So generally cyanide poisoning में क्या होता? It will not let cellular respiration occur. उसको vertical histotoxic anoxia में बोल सकते हैं. Toxin causing direct cellular damage, especially to respiration. So example is cyanide poisoning. ठीक है? Cyanide is a substance that can stop cellular respiration, because of which histotoxic anoxia can occur, leading to stroke finally. Then we have fourth type, stagnant anoxia. Now, as the name suggests, there is stagnation. यहाँ पर stagnation is referred to stagnation of blood. ठीक है? Damage is occurring because blood is stagnating in certain areas, leading to accumulation of metabolites. ठीक है? That metabolites is changing local pH and it is causing anoxia. तो क्या हो रहा? एक particular area में because of blockage or because of whatever reason, damage is occurring. That damage is caused by blood cessation. So blood is not flowing properly. It is stopping in one particular area and it is stagnating. As a result, a lot of local accumulation of metabolites occur. When those metabolites start accumulating, अब वहाँ अतराफ के cells है, they will keep on sending metabolites in the blood. That is the normal function of your cell. They will take in oxygenated blood and they will leave out carbon dioxide and a lot of metabolites, the end products of their metabolism and the end products of their respiration and metabolic processes that are occurring inside the cell. Those metabolites will start accumulating in that stagnated blood. As a result, pH will change, leading to stagnant anoxia. All right. So those are the four main causes through which ischemic brain damage can occur. Okay. Four main causes through which oxygen deprivation will occur, ultimately leading to ischemic brain damage. All right. We'll discuss intracranial hemorrhage some other time. Right. Hope you understood till here.